Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening. Thanks for choosing Big Fox News. I'm Nick Smith. Today, New York lawmakers reach a deal for a state budget totaling $212 billion. Matt Kleindus joins us from Corning with details on the budget proposal in tonight's top story.
Good evening, Nick. Under this plan, spending will go up considerably from last year, and the bill aims to increase school funding and provide rent relief while also increasing taxes for the wealthiest New Yorkers. The deal struck by Governor Cuomo and top lawmakers will have the budget increase by 10% from last fiscal year. A combination of increased federal funding on top of new revenue is the main driver for increased spending. Some of the new revenue will come from increased taxes on the wealthy. New Yorkers making over $1 million will see their taxes increase, and those making more than $5 million will fall under two new tax brackets. Revenue will also be generated through the legalization of mobile sports betting. The budget will set aside more than $29.5 billion for schools throughout the state, an increase of more than $3 billion from last year. About $2.4 billion will be available for renters and homeowners who were financially impacted by the pandemic. This includes a state program where renters will be eligible for a year's worth of back rent if they qualify. State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins says the budget will make New York better for all. Matt Kleindus, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Guthrie's Vaccine Clinic in Sayre now has appointments for residents age 16 and up with comorbidities, as well as people who qualify in phases 1A through 1C. While New York has made vaccination eligibility universal, the Sayre Clinic will follow the vaccine criteria for Pennsylvania. Guthrie will offer vaccines to everyone soon, but until then, Dr. Philip Heavner says it's important to vaccinate those with comorbidities first.
Certain underlying things like asthma or diabetes or other things really can make it more likely that you'll get very sick if you get coronavirus. It doesn't mean that you definitely will, but it means that there's a bigger chance. So it's really important to get that vaccine as soon as you can.
Residents are asked to schedule their appointments through their online portal or by calling their centralized scheduling number. A disturbing trend is emerging among COVID-19 patients and neurological issues. COVID-19 specialist Amanda Decker shows us what's happening to millions of patients after their diagnosis.
Within 6 months of being diagnosed with COVID-19, 1 in 3 patients will experience some type of psychiatric or neurological issue, the most common among them, mood disorders. But things like stroke and dementia are also possible. This is all according to a new study from the journal Lancet. Researchers have been trying to figure out what type of impact COVID-19 is really having on our brains. They discovered about 1 in 8 COVID-19 patients would be diagnosed with a condition such as anxiety or depression for the first time in their life after getting infected with COVID-19. When you compare that to other conditions like the flu, COVID patients suffer from these conditions almost twice as often. They compared about 81 million people. Roughly 250,000 of those had suffered from COVID at some point. The rest suffered from a variety of other conditions. There was a 44% higher incidence of 13 different mental health or brain-related conditions among COVID patients when they were compared to those who had suffered from the flu, and a 16% higher risk compared to other respiratory tract conditions like pneumonia. Anxiety, mood, and substance abuse disorders are the most common, but researchers also discovered just under 1% of these patients suffered a brain hemorrhage after their infection, 2.1% had an ischemic stroke, and just under 1% suffered from dementia after having COVID. Overall, they found that the more severe the COVID infection, the higher the rate of neuropsychiatric illness. I'm COVID-19 specialist Amanda Decker reporting.
Yesterday afternoon, the front of a 2-story row house in northeast Philadelphia collapsed in an explosion. A Good Samaritan sprang into action to save the 61-year-old resident from the fire that followed. Alicia Roberts has the story.
Take a look at the moment. Surveillance video captures the front of this brick row home exploding.
Our units arrived to find the front of a building missing and collapsed, and the second floor heavily involved in fire.
It happened just before 1:30 Tuesday afternoon on the 6300 block of Algard Street in Wissinoming. Utility crews also responded, cutting off gas service as more than 60 firefighters worked to put out the flames for nearly an hour.
They also discovered an individual.
I heard him crying and screaming, so I went in and tried to help him out.
Raken Dyer was visiting a friend and saw the blast happen. And watch as he climbs over the rubble to get inside to rescue a 61-year-old man trapped on the second floor.
When I went upstairs, he was on fire, so I pulled him out with the extinguisher. And I picked him up, put him on my shoulder, and I came downstairs.
This Good Samaritan in the right place at the right time, saying he didn't think about himself until after it was over.
Once I got him out, I was scared. Like, I can't believe I went in there.
Humble about his heroism, which likely saved a life.
I want somebody to help my mom or my grandpa.
One New York woman could provide hope to those with damaged tracheas. She is the first to receive a successful transplant in a surgery that could have implications for COVID survivors who were treated with a ventilator. Tony Aiello has the story.
Dancing with her grandkids, a dream come true for 56-year-old Sonia Sain, who a year ago wondered how much longer she had to live.
It's like, oh my God. Is this really, really happening?
Mount Sinai says Sain is the first in the world to receive a transplanted trachea or windpipe, replacing hers, damaged in 2016 when she was intubated following a severe asthma attack.
When they put that tube in, she had the tube in for quite some time and it damaged the tracheal airway.
The 18-hour surgery on January 13th involved a team of 50. If it had failed, Sain would likely have died.
You realize this has to work because if it doesn't work, there's really no place to go moving forward.
The painstaking connection of blood vessels to the donor organ was key to making the transplant work.
When we saw the organ come to life and we saw the blood supply was intact, we knew we had jumped the first hurdle.
It's a dramatic transplant advancement and timely. COVID intubations are leaving hundreds of patients with damaged windpipes.
While the number of patients who need this operation today is probably not large, they're out there.
Doctors say Sain is showing no signs of rejecting the new windpipe, and soon she'll be able to speak normally after a final surgery to close the remaining small hole in her neck.
Y'all gave me a chance to live again. Y'all gave me a chance to be with my family one more time. And I really appreciate it.
A life-saving medical milestone.
Members of law enforcement testifying on police policies and procedures in the murder trial of Derek Chauvin as the jury considers the former officer's actions during the arrest of George Floyd. Chauvin has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter stemming from Floyd's death. Daryl Forges is outside the Minneapolis courtroom with highlights from the trial.
Raise your right hand. One after another, veteran members of law enforcement taking a stand in the murder trial of Derek Chauvin, testifying on police training and procedure.
No force should have been used once he was in that position.
A Los Angeles Police Department sergeant and use of force expert called by the prosecution, continuing his testimony Wednesday morning.
Based on my analysis, Mr. Floyd never was not actively resisting at the time that he was in the prone position, nor did he communicate to them that he was attempting to resist or evade them.
The prosecution attempting to cut the heart of the defense's argument that then Minneapolis police officer Chauvin was following his training when he knelt on George Floyd's neck for over 9 minutes.
We don't train leg neck restraints with the officers in service. And as far as my knowledge, we never have.
On Tuesday, the use of force instructor testifying officers are trained to only use force that is proportional to the threat.
We want to use the lowest level of force possible.
Witnesses also said officers are required to de-escalate situations.
We have the time to slow things down and reevaluate, reassess,
and render aid.
If you don't have a pulse on a person, you'll immediately start CPR.
But in cross-examination, the defense maintaining Chauvin's actions were appropriate.
Does this appear to be a neck restraint?
No, sir.
And argued use of force depends on the situation.
There is no strict application of every single rule, agreed? Or every single technique?
That is correct.
In Minneapolis, I'm Daryl Forges.
New video of an abandoned migrant child is intensifying debate over what should be done at the southern border. Ray Bogan has more on the growing surge of migrants and the boy at the center of the debate.
Heartbreaking video of a frightened boy seen crying alone in the desert is shedding new light on the challenges at the U.S. southern border. The boy asked a Border Patrol agent for help and said he was abandoned.
These cartels are ruthless. The Biden administration needs to get back to some of these policies, because these policies that Trump administration had saved lives.
The video comes as Health and Human Services opens another 1,500-bed emergency intake site for unaccompanied children in Texas. Customs and Border Protection projects 184,000 unaccompanied minors will cross the U.S. border this fiscal year. As of Monday, approximately 4,200 children were in Customs and Border Protection custody, and 15,000 are being cared for by Health and Human Services.
The incentive now is if you come as a child alone, we're going to welcome you. It's a business for these people.
The surge in migrant crossings comes as Customs and Border Protection also announced 2 Yemeni men apprehended in California are on a terror watch list. Tuesday, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy formally requested a classified briefing on the matter, saying, "We simply have no way of knowing if other terrorists have crossed the border undetected."
Encounters of known and suspected terrorists are very uncommon. While this is rare, this is a reflection of them doing their jobs.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas may be considering resuming construction of the border wall. He reportedly told employees he may approve plugging gaps in the current wall. Ray Bogan, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, researchers in Ohio working to help sick pets and potentially sick humans.
There also are some new chemotherapy drugs on the horizon that have shown some really interesting results in our dogs.
A closer look at how dogs can potentially advance treatments for breast and lung cancer in humans.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. A fabulous warm day. It felt more like late spring than this early spring. Temperatures today about 5 degrees warmer in Elmira, about 3 in Corning, and reporting about 7 degrees warmer in Bath and also in Watkins Glen. We are expecting another fabulous day tomorrow. Temperatures starting off quite mild because those clouds will stick around and our moisture content has also increased. So by 8 o'clock, readings will be around 54 degrees, about 10 degrees warmer by 10 o'clock. And then it looks like we are going to reach the 70s by noon. Our highs will be in the mid to upper 70s. Clouds will start to increase as another storm system approaches. And we do have the possibility of a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm that could move through our area by Friday, but it's going to be just a very slim chance, and then we have more chances of rain for the weekend. So let's take a look at our future radar. We are expecting quiet weather through the day tomorrow, not a lot going on. So if you want to do anything outdoors, tomorrow's going to be a great day to do that. As we head into the early morning hours on Friday, there will be a few showers that will be moving in from the southwest. It will move right over our area, and it's going to be very scattered. Not everyone's going to see it, and we're talking about less than 1/10 of an inch in many locations. And so it's not going to be a lot of rain, but you might have to dodge some of these showers that will be moving through our area. But then we start to dry out by the evening hours on Friday. Over the weekend, for Saturday night into Sunday, we have another system that will come through, and it is going to bring a few more showers across our area. And this system will also cool things down for early next week. So here's a look at your forecast. Temperatures tonight, not as cold as they were this morning. We're talking about lows around 43 degrees in Elmira, in Corning about 45 also in Perkinsville. Partly cloudy skies tonight. We should see some sunshine, especially early in the day tomorrow. However, during the day, those clouds will start to increase as that next system approaches. But we are going to manage to get up into the 70s, 75 degrees in Corning, 74 degrees in Elmira, and 73 degrees in Perkinsville. Here's a look at your extended forecast. It looks like that next system will put an end to our heat wave. In fact, temperatures drop down just a little bit on Friday with the possibility of a few isolated showers, but then The heat will be back on as we head into the weekend. 77 degrees on Saturday, 71 on Sunday. But we have another system that will come through that will cool things off for early next week. So highs by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will only be in the 60s. Overnight lows will drop down into the 30s.
We know there are many benefits to having a pet. Research shows that animals can help their owners increase exercise, lower stress, and decrease loneliness. But clinical trials involving dogs with cancer could improve treatments for humans too. Mandy Gaither explains in today's Health Minute.
At Ohio State University, researchers at the Blue Buffalo Veterinary Clinical Trials Office are working to help sick pets and potentially sick humans. Video of the research being done here was taken before the pandemic, but still continues today. Several trials are currently underway, including one involving the drug neratinib, FDA approved for the treatment of breast and lung cancer in humans. Researchers here say they've determined half of canine lung cancers carry the same gene mutations they do in humans. The treatment is given to dogs that already have cancer. Other cancer therapies are also being studied.
There also are some new chemotherapy drugs on the horizon that have shown some really interesting results in our dogs with naturally occurring cancers that have both relevance to treating our veterinary patients better, but also helping improve the treatment of people with the same types of cancers.
Dr. Sarah Moore says the research conducted in clinical trials is critical to fight cancer and other diseases in animals and humans.
The possibilities are really endless in terms of where things can go from here.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
A young intern helped save a man from a sinkhole outside of a storage facility in Colorado over the weekend. A mine shaft collapsed and the man fell 30 feet. Jamie Leary has the story.
In a matter of seconds, a man went from standing in front of a storage unit to 30 feet below the ground.
This is not a call we run often, but we moved into gear and did what we knew we had to do to get him out safely.
Alex Conlon was one of the first to respond Sunday. He's been an intern with Leadville Fire Rescue for 2 years.
He's hungry. He's hungry as a firefighter. He wants to learn. He's been very active in everything that we have done.
When Alex arrived on scene,
our captain came to him and said, "Hey, how do you feel about going down this hole?"
I was down there less than 5 minutes after we had arrived on scene.
Mine shafts collapsing, it's something Public Works in Leadville deals with around twice a month.
It's like, this is really off the wall, crazy, Usually they happen where in backyards or something like that.
This one, it's opened up before and may have been covered in snow.
It's a possibility that at one point it had opened up during the wintertime and it was just covered with ice and then the ice fell in.
I mean, it's always nerve-wracking, especially as an intern. I'm younger in the fire service.
Mine shaft rescues, something Alex can now add to his list of skills.
I went down in that hole knowing who I had above me and who was going to pull me out if things went south, and that's why I love doing this job.
A California teenager has filed a lawsuit over his father's choking death as a result of a taco eating contest in 2019. The lawsuit against the Fresno Grizzlies minor league baseball team accuses them of negligence. Corin Hoggart has the story.
Dana Andrew Hutchings had high hopes for the 2019 amateur taco eating contest during the Fresno Grizzlies taco truck throwdown. Witnesses said he jumped out to an early lead before something went wrong and he stopped. An autopsy revealed Hutchings choked to death that night, leaving behind his 16-year-old son, Marshall.
From Marshall's perspective, this is a great loss for him. It's something that was totally unexpected.
Martin Telesnik is suing the Grizzlies on Marshall's behalf. The lawsuit claims stadium personnel noticed Hutchings having trouble, so they tried to help him by performing CPR and using a defibrillator.
Did they do the right things? It seems as though they thought this was a heart attack. They brought in a defibrillator, and I think they did CPR. Well, that doesn't help if you're choking.
Grizzlies general manager Derek Franks expressed condolences to the Hutchings family after the death, and the team canceled the professional taco eating contest scheduled for the day after. Franks told me owners haven't seen the lawsuit and have no comment for now. But legal analyst Tony Capozzi says the family's attorneys will have to prove Hutchings had no way of knowing the risks.
When you go into some kind of a eating contest, you got to know there's an assumption of risk. If you are willing to assume that risk, that absolves the people putting on the food eating contests of any liability.
Talesnik says professional eating contests are risky, but the pros know the risk and train to reduce it. He says amateurs don't have that skill set.
If you're going to do an amateur eating contest, open your eyes and be really cognizant of the harm it can cause unless you absolutely take the strictest safeguards. And we just don't necessarily believe that's what happened here. And as a result, Marshall's dad passed away.
The dispute is scheduled for case management in front of a judge in August, just about 2 years after Hutchings' death.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is set to release details on Tiger Woods' car crash. The golf legend suffered serious injuries after crashing his car in Southern California on February 23rd. His SUV hit a sign, crossed a center divider, and traveled more than 150 feet across the shoulder of the road before coming to a stop. Last week, Sheriff Alex Villanueva said the investigation was complete, but the report could not be released without Woods' permission. He cited privacy concerns. The head of one of America's largest corporations is backing a tax increase. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos released a statement Tuesday saying the company supports such legislation. The White House is laying the groundwork for lifting the corporate tax rate above its current level of 21% to help pay for an infrastructure package. Bezos' statement is a notable show of approval, given that many others in the business community have warned it could threaten recovery efforts from the pandemic. A lab mix in Virginia is pulling double duty as both a service dog and as a contestant in a national dog contest for heroic dogs. Angela Bohan introduces us to the mother and her dog, who she says saved her life during a house fire.
Meet Cameo. She's a lab mix with a seemingly normal life. Except her owner is now a pet photographer, so she's kind of a big deal on Instagram.
Cameo suffers from the photographer's child syndrome, and I take pictures of her all the time.
But this pup isn't just a model. She's also a service dog for her owner, Brittany Sorrentini.
I took a chance with her and put all my faith in her, and it worked out.
Good girl. Sorrentini says she suffers from anxiety and narcolepsy.
She's able to recognize those symptoms, and she alerts to those before it happens. That way I have a safe place to fall or sit down.
Cameo also provides emotional support and a barrier when alongside her owner in a crowd.
She will sit behind me like she is now, and she'll make it so men, or women even now, don't approach too close to me. That way I feel safe and my anxiety doesn't flare up in public.
In addition to the continuous support this dog gives her owner, she's also credited with alerting the family during a house fire about 1.5 years ago.
We opened up our bedroom door and the whole house was filled with smoke. If it weren't for her, we probably wouldn't have made it out in time.
For all these reasons and more, Cameo's owner nominated her in the American Humane Hero Dog Awards. And she really is up against some top dogs in categories including service dogs, military dogs, and law enforcement dogs. Whether she wins the most votes or gets featured on the Hallmark Channel with the other winners, Cameo is still a hero to at least one person. In Norfolk, Angela Bohan, News 3.
Термометров будут показывать на этой неделе до 8 плюс 9 градусов.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. A weather report from the streets of Moscow has gone to the dogs. It happened on Friday when the reporter was about to do a live report on Russian TV broadcaster Mir. As soon as she started speaking, a golden retriever jumped up and grabbed her microphone and ran away. The reporter tracked down the pooch and retrieved the mic. A happy ending occurred when the two returned to air and shook, showing no hard feelings on either side. I'll be sure to keep an eye on my microphone. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.